Welcome to episode 3 of destroying my bathroom while my husband's out of town so he can't tell me no. Here's where we left off, episode 2. I'm really excited for today because we're going to be seeing a lot of progress in the bathroom. Vision is really going to start coming to life here. Okay, I thought we would get farther last night and finish the drywall and have our first coat of mud on, but that did not happen. So today we're going to install the last piece of drywall, which should be fairly easy, and then we're going to start mudding and taping. I was so nervous for it. Turned out pretty good. So we're just going to hopefully continue those vibes today. In the garage, I originally thought I was going to have to do 2 pieces here. Thankfully, that's not the case. I didn't want to spend the money on a full piece. So if I would have had to do this in 3 pieces, I would have put a support in here of a 2x4 for the drywall to attach to. But thankfully, we had another piece. So I'm just going to put one longer piece here. Okay, this is the moment of truth. If this last piece fits. Perfect. Now we are going to screw it in. Okay, now comes the fun part of mudding and taping everything. I want it to look perfect. Anyways, I'm just going to take my time. I'm going to go over it a ton. So if there's any imperfections, I'll just go over with it mud again. And before you tape anything, you do want to just lightly wipe down the surfaces that the tape is going to adhere to. I already went around and wiped everything down so I can start putting tape up. So let's get to it. The mudding tape I'm using is self-adhesive, so it's already sticky on the one side. I've never tried tape. I have no idea if it works good or not. This is what I'll be using. And so I'm taking this down. You want it to be as straight as possible. Okay, one piece down. Now we need to do the others. I'm starting with the easiest pieces first because why not? And this is why you don't want there to be any dust or debris where you're putting the tape because it will not adhere as well. So now when we tape the corners, I am using the exact same tape again, but I am creasing it into the corner. So I'm going to go in like this, if that makes sense, on each side of the wall, and it's going to meet in the middle here. Taping is the easy part of this process. If I can do it, you definitely can. It is not that hard. It is better when you're taping, it's one consistent piece. And you're not breaking it into a ton of little ones. You want it to look as good as possible, in my opinion. It just leaves less room for imperfections to show. Pushing this down and putting it into the corner, pretty snug here. I'm just taking my nails and going up down the middle so it's nice and snug in that crack. So this is definitely going to be the hardest part. The sanding and mudding I feel like needs to be perfect for it to look good. So I am nervous about this part, but we're going to do our best and yeah, we'll see what happens. You want to make sure you don't have any debris in your putty or anything like that because then you're going to see the lines on here. I'm sure it's going to happen to me, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to start and we're going to pray for the best. You really want to push the mud into the seams of the drywall and the tape. And I don't like overdoing this because you're just gonna have more sanding to do if you build it up way farther than it needs to be. So I'm really pushing the mud into the grooves here. Stuff like this you don't want in there because you're going to see it on your drywall even when you paint after. And you want to do a heavy coat because you're going to have to do this more than once otherwise. If you don't want it to be overflowing, but you do want to be putting enough in to make it worth your time. And you're going different directions to really get that mud in there. And you might as well load your tray up with a ton of mud because I'm already out. I'm a firm believer that you can do anything you put your mind to. So you just gotta fake it till you make it. And that's exactly what I'm doing for this renovation. And when you're mudding, you don't need to have a ton of residue left in a spot you're mudding because then you're just gonna have to sand it later. So I'm going over these holes with not a ton of extra mud in it. And throughout this process, you're going to see me going like this with the mud, cleaning off each side. Because if you're not doing this constantly, you're going to start seeing lines in your mud, and we don't want to see that. So we're constantly cleaning it so that we can get it on as flat as possible. So this is what the mud is looking like after our first coat. It definitely is not pretty. It's going to get probably worse before it gets better, but I was just trying to layer on the mud here. Also, this just shows how far my DIY skills have come, because I legit just painted over both of these spots where these anchors are in the wall. We need to fix this because we're putting wallpaper on. So I'm going to cut around this and then pull it out. Anyways, you have to start somewhere. That was not the right thing to do back in the day, but now my skill level is higher and I'm not lazy. Now we are ready to put on the next coat of mud. Before I do that, I am going to go around and just scrape off any debris, really high edges and stuff like that with this. And then I'm going to put another coat on. I am not planning on sanding in between coats because I don't want you to be able to see the debris when I spread the mud, because you're going to be able to see anything. And this is the way I found works best to get that smooth look on the drywall. And it's also what my grandpa told me to do, so he has never failed me, so that's what we're doing. And this is what I mean when I say scraping. I am literally just going down the wall where I've already mudded, getting rid of any uneven debris. It's nothing crazy. You just don't want the little debris to be on here still, because that's when you're going to see the lines. So I'm going to do that everywhere here. I got everything scraped down, so now I'm going to put on my second coat of mud. I would love to only have to do 2 coats of mud for this space, so I'm going to try really hard to perfect this, and we'll see what it looks like at the end. Obviously, this is not my full-time job. I do this as a hobby, so it might very well take me more than 2 coats. I was told to feather when I'm mudding this coat. So I assume that means feathering out the edges of these mud lines to like fade it out into the rest. I don't really know. And I realized that when it looks good to just leave it, because every time I try to fix a minor imperfection, I make it worse. I think I just need to keep remembering to feather, 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 feather. Ah! I actually... Oh, I thought this would probably be easier the second time. I don't know why. God, this is harder. But I don't like seeing these cracks, and that's really gonna bug me. But then I'm like, okay, I don't really need it to be perfect, because I do want to do trim up here. But I'm like, if I take the trim off, I'm gonna be obviously probably mad at myself for not doing a good job. Oh my god. I hate when I have a perfect spot and then I go over it and it's horrible. I just got feather, 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 feather. Feathering makes the world go round. Am I right? Probably not.
Okay, we have definitely heard enough of my internal mudding thoughts, so let's speed this process up.
When I'm talking about feathering, this is what it is, just feathering it out on the wall. So you kind of see how it feathers out. You don't want to have a big lump there. If it feathers, it blends in a lot better. When you're putting your mud away, you want to make sure that the edges barely have anything on the side, and that you're kind of pushing this all down to be flat, because if any of this gets hard between coats, then you're gonna see the little pebbles and stuff on the wall, and you don't want to. That's what I do. And then we shut it. We are done the second coat of mud, and now we just have to wait 24 hours, and then we're gonna sand it down and see what happens and see if I have to do more. I really hope I don't have to do more, because this is hard. I thought the first coat was the hardest one. This is, because you're trying to make it perfect.
And here's what it looks like after episode 2. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on seeing if I can finish this project before my husband gets home.